Welcome to the Human Nature Channel. I'm your host, mtamsula, and what am I doing here? Well, it's Tuesday night once again here in my dad's working farm garage. Actual work, it's done in here. And since it's a nice place to work on videos, I guess like father, like son. Haven't shot in here in a couple of weeks. It's nice to be back. But I didn't get a chance to tell you the story about how me and my invisible partner, when we went up to Black Moshannon State Park, almost didn't get into that cabin we stayed at. Now, the way it works at this state park is you have two types of cabins. You've got the smaller types, and I think you can rent them daily, couple of days, 3 days. But the cabin we were staying at is the type where you have to reserve it for an entire week. Now, my invisible partner knew somebody who had done just that. They had reserved that cabin for an entire week, but they only really needed it for 3 days, which meant that by Wednesday they had to go back to Pittsburgh. But they told my invisible partner about it, and they said, hey, if you want to, you can drive up to Black Moshannon State Park and go to the ranger station and get the key, and you can stay there until Friday at 9 a.m. And my invisible partner told me about it, and I'm like, yeah, that's a really great idea. So that particular Wednesday, we spend the 3 hours driving up. We go through Petersburgh, which is this nice, almost post-Revolutionary War style town. It's a nice old town. So anyway, we get to Black Moshannon State Park. First thing we did was we drove onto the campgrounds to find that cabin. And first I saw all the smaller cabins, and I went, okay. And then I saw the bigger cabin where we were supposed to stay, and I went, wow. Now, on the door frame, there was a key box with a combination lock. Now, there was a key inside there, but that wasn't part of the plan. The plan was that the key had been left for us at the ranger station. Now, even though the ranger station was closed at this time of day, you can still get into the lobby. So we drove over there. And here's what we were expecting. You'd walk into the lobby, you look to your right, and there's a sign that says keys, and there's a rack, and our keys should be in it. So we're there, we go into the lobby, we turn to the right, we see the carved wooden sign that said keys, and we don't see any keys. There's nothing there. And my invisible partner and I were looking at each other like, now what? Because, like I explained in the video from the park, this is kind of a strange place. I mean, you're surrounded by all of these high ridges, but where you're at is a bog. You're way, way down, and you're not going to get any cell phone service. You pull out your cell phone, you're not going to get any bars. So my invisible partner at this point couldn't call the people who had originally reserved that cabin to find out what the heck is going on. We leave the lobby. On the side of the building, there is a phone for 911. And we're like, no, this isn't serious enough to call 911. And at this point, we're actually debating turning around and driving back to Pittsburgh or going up into Phillipsburg and see if we can find a motel room, rent it for the night, and leave in the morning. We're like, what are we going to do? So we hop in his car and we drive maybe like 4 or 5 miles away from Black Moshannon State Park. And my invisible partner is trying to get this person who had reserved this cabin, he's trying to get him on the phone. Finally gets him on the phone, right? Now he's driving while he's talking to him, and I'm listening to this. And he's like, no, I don't think it's a good idea to call 911. I'm like, oh, okay. And then he'd lose cell phone service, and he'd get him back again, and we'll pull off to the side of the road, and he's standing with his cell phone like this. So we finally got the person again, And they tell him, oh, there's this road, like, Anna Furnace Road or something. Just go back down and make a right on the Anna Furnace Road and go like 2 miles, and you will find a forestry service station. And actually what it was a garage for the heavy equipment the Forest Service reuses. So he was told on the phone, if you go there, there is also a residence for the forest ranger. So we're like, great. So we hop in his car and we drive down Anna Furnace Road or whatever, and we find this place, and there's a gate, and we parked and we get out and we walk around the gate, and now we're walking around this facility, right? And we're walking around these garages, and I'm like, there is no residence here. There is no forest ranger residence anywhere. I mean, I'm looking in the woods, and occasionally I think, maybe do I see a house? No, it's the witch's hut from Hansel and Gretel. Forget it. We're like, what are you going to do? So we hop back in his car. We drive down the road again, 4 or 5 miles, heading toward Phillipsburg, and he's got him on the phone one more time. And apparently somebody said, okay, here is the combination to the lockbox on the outside of the cabin. And we're like, oh, okay. So we turn around and we drive back to the campsite, and we drive up to the cabin, and we get out, and my invisible partner goes up and he's got the combination. There's the keys. We get inside, and we are so grateful that we are in there just so we could sit down in a chair and go, great, we don't have to go back to Pittsburgh until Friday. Oh, it was a heck of an adventure. There's also one other thing about it, too. Like, we're there Wednesday night, right? And I said, there's no TV, there's no internet, there is no anything. There's just me and my buddy sitting in the living room of this very nice cabin. Fortunately, we're like jokers, right? We're always cracking jokes, and it was a fun time. But I do remember it was so deathly quiet, my head was buzzing, because I spend a lot of time on Twitter, and I was actually going through Twitter withdrawal. Oh. So how about some Las Vegas Shooting Truth Community yak, because that's what you're here for. In last week's video number 80, I mentioned Concerned Citizen. From a post of his in a chat group we were in from well over a year ago, I tried to state from memory what I thought was his opinion on how a second shooter might have exited room 32134. 1,000 pardons, CC, for not getting it right. However, CC was kind enough to make a comment, and I'd like to give him the opportunity to state his idea in full. It's also worth taking the time to go over some issues CC raises, which I will do afterwards. Hi, Alex. Just for clarification, I don't think anyone crawled through a vent to escape. What I question is this. There are huge access panels on both sides of the walls. These can be seen on both sides of the wall between the living room and the master bedroom in room 135 and the 135 side between 135 and 134. Another access panel in 134 is on the wall between 134 and 132. My question is whether there's enough room for a smallish, thin man to slip around the ductwork and move from 134 to 132. People say no, there's not enough room, but until I can see what it looks like with one of those panels removed, I don't think it can be taken as fact. If I recall, there was a man, I think pretending to be sleeping, that was ushered out of room 132. And they didn't seem to detain or question anyone that was removed from the rooms of the 100 hall, except for when they found the baby alone in a room. CC then goes on. There are two problems that I have with the text messages. One, the news organization that did the reporting has not proven to be one of the most reliable sources, and no one independently verified it. And two, the reporter never said that he actually saw or read the texts. They claim that they verified the phone number, but that just shows that Kate knew SP. For all I know, she could be just looking for her 15 minutes of fame. In the article, they show a mock-up of the texts, but they don't show the actual texts. And they never clarify if the reporter read and or saw the text or was just taking her word on what they said. Okay, thank you, CC. So, let's address the texts first. Scott Liowski, in a comment, also questioned the veracity of the texts or even the reporting. I must admit, I can't personally vouch for anything the Daily Mail has to say. I took the article reported at face value for the purpose of analysis. But conversely, I can't guarantee that the story of Paddock's female friend Kate and the texts wasn't cooked up by some shadowy nameless people who know a linguist for hire. Interestingly enough, the Daily Mail does serve up a sequel of sorts with another article about Kate titled, Las Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock's mistress has replica pistol seized by police after flashing it in shopping mall in New Zealand, where she fled in aftermath of massacre. A title which tells you most of the story in one sentence. Kate was approached by a reporter, causing her to take a toy gun out of her purse and wave it around, saying she had a concealed carry permit and feared for her life. After the reporter made a complaint to the police, the authorities paid Kate a visit to inform her it's illegal to do such things. The rest of the article is just a word-for-word reprint of the Daily Mail's first article on the subject, with some new tidbits. When Paddock and Kate first met in a Florida bar in 2013, the small talk was over guns. And with Kate being a hunting enthusiast, the two hit it off. Paddock was something of a ladies' man back in his saner days. And if that part of the story sounds believable, then are the texts still a work? Well, if it is a work, then the nameless ones went to some trouble putting Kate at a shopping mall in New Zealand. Come to think of it, Australians like Lefebvre, the New Zealander, Filipinos by way of Australia, Paddock had a knack for connecting with people from that side of the Pacific if they made their way to Nevada or Florida. The coincidences stack up faster than poker chips after a hot hand. But I still take the content of the Daily Mail's reporting on this tortured relationship as having a ring of truth. I don't have much reason not to think this, for the moment. However, the concerns of CC and Scott got the gears turning in my head. There is something else I can't guarantee, and that is whether those texts were actually written by Paddock in whole or in part. Don't you think the FBI, if they had all of Paddock's smartphones and gotten into them, would have known about these texts a while ago? Why did we just hear about them in January of this year and from the Daily Mail of all places? That could be the biggest reason why the appearance of the texts at this late date is fishy. The texts sometimes sound like they're written by two different people, which opens up interesting possibilities. That doesn't necessarily mean two people were taking turns texting Kate as some kind of gag. I told Scott I'd bet money all the words were written by Paddock if Paddock was untreated bipolar, which I think he was. It is within the realm of the actual that Paddock could bounce back and forth between extremes of mood. In some of the texts, he sounds rather sanguine, almost maternal, as he tells Kate, "I truly hope you are well, happy, and life has been good for you." It sounds like he's writing a fucking greeting card. But that's before the mask slips and he says, "There are so many people who don't deserve to be alive." Then you get to meet the beast. And it goes beyond that. Stephen Paddock was not only self-pitying, but he was also judgmental and self-righteous. George Burns called it when he commented that Paddock was a narcissist. Paddock was definitely a narcissist. He thought he was one type of person, maybe somebody who saw himself morally superior because of his reasoning abilities, but most likely Paddock was the irrational opposite. The real Stephen Paddock wasn't the guy who told Kate, "I am sorry for anything I've done to hurt you." The real Stephen Paddock was the guy who tied her up for rough sex. That's when Kate got to meet the beast. Next, I'd like to make some comment about CC's conjecture that the access panels for HVAC maintenance between 134 and 132 could have allowed a second shooter with a slim enough build to squeeze between the ductwork and gain entry into room 132. I like the Mission Impossible feel to that, and I must admit it is clever. It's even something that should have been thought of and checked by the FBI and the LVMPD, if just to eliminate it as a possibility. But that's too much like being thorough, and we know how the FBI, the LVMPD, and the casinos feel about thorough when it comes to the Las Vegas shooting. Anyway, there's always something interesting inside or outside my dad's garage. What can I show you tonight? Here we have attached to the frame of the garage door is a clamp with a walnut in it. And don't ask me why. The thing's been there for as long as I can remember. But in terms of cracking a nut, it doesn't seem to be getting anywhere. I'll tell you what I think it is. It's a trap for the easily perplexed. And it's doing its job. Well, I think I have everything I need. I have a lighter briquette still in the blister pack. And considering the design of the thing, I think it's been in this blister pack for the last 15 years. I got a plastic bottle of Kikkoman wasabi sauce. This is actually pretty good wasabi sauce too. I put this on my sushi. I have everything I need. That's it. I want to do a song, but I think I'm going to wait till I get back to the apartment to attempt it, because right now it's like 2:30 or something like that. Hey, Irv. Do me the honors and help shut the show down. All right. Time for your close-up, pal. Irv and I happen to be really big fans of the rock band ZZ Top. In fact, I have almost all of their CDs except for one. I don't have the last one, which is called Futura. But I have the ZZ Top 6-pack with 6 of their albums on it. There's ZZ Top's first album, Rio Grande Mud, Tres Hombres, Fandango, Tejas, which is an album I really enjoy, El Loco, and then there's Diguelo, which comes before El Loco, what are you going to do? Oh, and then we have this multi-seller eliminator with these hits on it. Give Me All Your Lovin', Got Me Under Pressure, Sharp Dressed Man, Legs. Easily one of the biggest rock albums of all time. I have Afterburner. Some fans complained about them leaning heavy on the synthesizers. I think it's an okay CD. But then they bounce back with Recycler that has the classic My Head's in Mississippi. When they were doing the Recycler tour, ZZ came to Pittsburgh and I saw him live. What a great show. Got the greatest hits package. Now ZZ leaves their record label Warner's and goes to RCA, and things kind of changed. Their first outing on that label was Antenna. It's okay. But then they came out with Rhythmine. Ah, I love this CD. I've listened to it over and over. I think it's really terrific. There's Triple X, which is a mixture of recorded tracks and live tracks. Kind of the less said about this one, the better. Yet, they come back flaming with Mescalero, which is another amazing CD. I've listened to this over and over. I really love Mescalero. Such a big fan, I even have one of Billy's solo albums, Big Bad Blues. He has one before this called Perfecto Mundo, which I want to get one of these days. I'll probably get it with Futura. Anyway, we're going to take a crack at She's Got Me Under Pressure. We'll see how this goes. La 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 bum 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 la 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 bum 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 la 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 bum 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 la 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 bum 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 la 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 la. She likes wearing lipstick. She likes French cuisine, but she won't let me use my passion unless it's in a limousine. She's got me under pressure, la 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 la. She's got me under pressure, la 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 la. She likes the art museum. She don't like Pavlov's dog. She fun at the Mine Museum. She like it in a London fog. She don't like other women. She likes whips and chains. She likes cocaine, la 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 la, and flipping out with Great Danes. She's about all I can handle. It's too much for my brain. It's got me under pressure, la 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 la. It's got me under pressure, la 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 la. Ow, la 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 la. I'm gonna give her a message. Here's what I'm gonna say. It's all over. She might get out her nightstick and break me real bad by the roadside in a ditch. It's got me under pressure, la 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 la. It's got me under pressure, la 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 la. It's got me under pressure, la 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 la. It's got me under pressure, la 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 la. Ow! Whew.